Shalom. God is great and greatly to be praised. What an exciting time it is to be with you on Choices. Welcome and enjoy the program. Now, we continue to explore the different ways and means to execute the topic we are discussing. What can we do to make things different? First, we must recognize who we are. Stop condemning and comparing ourselves with others. We are unique. God's special handiwork. In this world that we are living in, it's in dire need of help. It's like a drunken man hanging on to a straw, his last resort. We as individuals, yes, those of you that are looking at this program, we must be willing and ready to give a helping hand. We must be the agent of change in the family, society, and the world. Whatever we must do it now, while we are alive and while we have the opportunity. Don't wait. As we say, don't procrastinate. It might be too late. This world is crying for help. Please, we encourage you, step out of your way and help. God bless you, and God continue to bless beautiful and progressive Guyana. Thank you for staying with us.
2 Timothy 3:1 talks about the last days, and it talks about some of the things that we will see happening in the last days. As a matter of fact, it refers to dangerous times will come, marked by people being lovers of themselves, greedy, boastful, ungrateful, and lacking self-control. As we look around in society today, even in our own society, we've seen elements of this, and as Pastor Singh rightfully said, that people need help, and so it would be remiss of us to recognize these things and not say anything or offer some kind of advice or solutions to some of the problems that we have seen. And that's why the warning came, to Timothy, because you must look out for these things. And I don't think the idea is to just observe that these things will come and remain quiet. But if you're looking out for these things, you will recognize, because God is about changing lives, is about winning souls, and so on. And so we have noticed there seem to be a certain kind of trend now, where a place that would have been dedicated for learning, for the impartation of information that will help persons develop and to grow. We've seen places like that being reduced, a place where people are fighting and contention and confusion and so on. And so we need to address this matter. And it is very prevalent in certain communities, and we cannot just look past this kind of behavior and operate as though it doesn't exist, because that kind of behavior will turn back to haunt us, not only as a community, not only but as a society also. And so we have to arrest this situation. We can't have parents being embroiled in brawls in schools, and children fighting in schools, and that kind of thing, when they should be learning, when they should be receiving the kind of advice and instruction that will cause them to develop and to make a contribution, not only to themselves, but a contribution to the family and by extension the society. So we need help, because these are the last days and people need help. And so we're not just prepared as people of God to watch and to say nothing and to do nothing. So we will offer advice, we will offer counsel, and where we can actively engage people, we will do that, because we want to see a better neighborhood, a better community. We want to see a better Guyana. Gentlemen.
Thank God we do not have a proliferation of guns in our society. because these situations around the world, yes, some kind of contention is taking place in schools and among young people. Um, there's a sociologist, social worker, teachers, former teachers who are in this panel, youth workers, and medical doctors. It's amazing. I've listened in our preparation as we attempt to grapple with what's happening. School used to be a place for academic excellence. You want to learn. You want to be a boxer? You went to the gym, and there were several gyms. Uninterrupted. How many hours a day for instructions in the school system? How many hours a day, sir?
Roughly 5 hours, 3 in
5
the
hours.
morning and 2 in the afternoon with a lunch break.
And this city, we recently had a situation where children were seen recorded fighting. I mean, they want to become pugilists, they want to become boxers. And it's not boys. I saw some footage, very disturbing. Girls was swinging at each other, and a child fighting what seemed to be an adult. I wasn't there, but I looked at some video, but it's disturbing. Brother Nasani, you taught for many years. Dr. Lee, you taught for a couple of years. Dr. Watson, you taught for many, many years. What's really going on here? What is really going on? How can we help these children to do better and to be their better selves?
I would like to say, Bishop, I think we have to start with the family. We can't rule it out. I know sometimes people don't want to hear this. They prefer to call the name of some official that is responsible or should be ensuring that fights, don't take place in school. But I would want to start from the family. Parents got to be more proactive in terms of rearing and caring and training their children. I think parents need to be more proactive. I think we need to start there. And thank God we still have teachers who show the kind of concern for children, and they are still integrally involved. As you mentioned that, I remember when I was growing up, we talking about parents and the children also. They had something called the YMCA and the YWC. I think it was Young Men Christian Association.
Yes.
And those things, you used to go, the girls, and then you had the YWC and you had YMCA. You used to go and expel some of your energies in the afternoon. You had some kind of training taking place. I remember my father collecting me, taking me to the Boy Scouts. These community centers, they're still around, but in some of those centers, you don't see the kind of operation for young people. I remember Mr. Delph and the others. So we learned to march. All of these things cultivated discipline. So when some of these boys go home in the afternoon, the girls go home in the afternoon from school, there is nothing else until another day. And so these community centers used to do well. That's where I learned to march. I learned the drills and so on. And you were able to be involved in something in the society. I think we need to resurrect some of those things that worked for us, and we have just allowed it to slip away. But it's very important though, the family has to be playing the lead role. I can't be in charge of my family and then, you know, every day it's my son or daughter is in some fight. What kind of training? Of course, one will argue that the parent doesn't know what to do. And here again is where, you know, some structures could be established in parental training and seminars and so on. So there's so many things that we could do. We maybe could identify one or two things and move in that direction, but there's so many things that we can do.
You know, colleagues, this is a matter that is of deep concern to me. I'm actually doing some research on how to help at-risk children. In many cases, these children really fall into at-risk. And while the parents, it is the responsibility of every parent, a God-given responsibility to raise up that child with the necessary skills, necessary training, necessary guidance to deal with issues, necessary strength to deal with stresses, and to even go as far as to help where there is mental condition. If the parents feel there is a community that should be there as a catchment net. But I find that after doing some research recently, that in many cases, parents don't seem to see that need and responsibility. And as a matter of fact, have appointed the teachers, and in some cases, the church or the community as the addendum parent. So these are the people who will raise my children. And even when it comes to bringing order and drawing the line, I find that we sometimes even ignore as parents that we have that responsibility to draw the line. And if we continue, and we speak to this issue as a community, because if we continue in this manner, it's not just the family that will fail, the community will fail. Our whole nation will fail. A whole ethnic group could fail. Therefore, as children of God, we would like to engage you, which in many cases is the first step. Engage in the conversation. Let's talk this matter over. What really is going on? Let's observe the behaviors. Yes, are we comfortable with the behaviors we see? And how could we collaborate? Mommy, daddy, you need to do better. You may shout that I need help. How could we come together to see something that is different? In every generation, you have the children who are exploring the edges. Not just this generation, every generation. But some generations have benefited from the gatekeepers, the guards, who have always been there to say, no, you're not going over the edge. We will not allow you to kill yourself. And I think sometimes we lack that in our community.
It takes a community to raise children. While you may be born to one man and one woman, it takes all of us to raise children. I'm a product of that. I came from a broken community. I did not know how to express myself. But you have got to learn to listen to the unspoken words in wherever you find yourself, whichever environment. I look at myself and I hear this conversation and I'm smiling. It took one woman to realize I was too silent to be normal, to be within my right mental capacity. It took that woman in my silence to say, I will reach out to you. So I am a doctor sitting here today, and imagine this woman listening to me in silence. Yes, you sometimes have to listen to the silence. In other occasions, persons may be shouting. Children, we shout, we scream when we don't know to express how we feel. It took teachers to look at me and say, you have potential. Come and sit with me. Today, you will help me teach the class, because they saw potential, but also behind that potential, they saw an unruly child. And instead of judging me, they listened to me. I then got a forum to say how I felt and what I was dealing with. and the fact that I was afraid of what I was going through and I didn't know how to deal with it. So they avoided me from fights because they heard my cry. So we want to say to parents, it is your duty, but additionally, every child around you is your child.
Yeah.
Listen to me. Do not judge me.
You know, it's thank you so much, Dr. Keisha, for sharing your story. You know, we have the evidence, you know. There's so many research being done, and one of our foremost researchers in Guyana, in her research on child neglect in Guyana, her name is Paulette Henry. She did extensive work throughout the 10 regions of Guyana. And one of our findings were that 60% of the children were left unsupervised by their parents for significant hours or days to pursue other social engagements such as partying. Unsupervised children, as you know, she indicated, they were left in the care of other siblings, many of whom are children as well. And so we are calling on parents. We cannot neglect our children. The research further said child abandonment is the second most form of neglect, and it was most prevalent in regions 4 and region. And we have to go back to the days when parents not only attend school or visit the school because of some ill or some wrong that the child may have done, but form that partnership with teachers, members of the society. Dr. Keisha just made the point, it takes a village to raise a child. We need to go back. We need to be proactive, and we need to go back to those days when we form those relationships and we look out. And I think a greater support of the extended family will augur well for our children, because I grew up in a village situation too. And my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, neighbors, everyone played a role. So they watched out for you. And I believe when we leave these children unsupervised, you know, the influences are so many out there. They get, especially the negative ones, they get bad advice, negative advice. Let us come back to that place where we raise our children and raise them well.
Sir, why don't you help us identify some of the negative influences?
Of course, we have, in terms of music, some of the music that our young people listen to is very toxic. It's very demeaning to women. Some of the social media that they subscribe to, these are things that are vying for our children's attention, and they are being involved consequentially into drugs, into alcoholism. And so these influences are not taking them in the right direction. As a matter of fact, it is destroying them. So we need to, as parents, as caregivers, we need to let our voices be heard more and our presence be felt more, starting from the home, going to the schools, the churches, the influential people in society, respected people. We need to visit the schools and let these children know these are some of the pitfalls. If you go in this direction, these will be some of the pitfalls. Give examples, sometimes share from our own lives, how we have overcome situations and now are productive citizens in society.
To fail to prepare is to prepare to fail. I remember that being written on a cardboard and placed at the entrance to the primary school I attended. And I think my mother and grandmother had a look at it, because
preparation for school did not start on the morning of school. It started over the weekend. And so you had to paper your books. And I got licks for something that was called dog ears on your book. And so the preparation started there. After school in the afternoon, you had to recite or repeat or educate my parents what was taught in school. And so the emphasis was on learning. Going to school was not just to see the teachers or to view the four walls, but it was inculcated at a very early age, the purpose to which I went to school. And so the appeal here is for parents to ensure that preparation for school does not start with providing the gadgets, whether it's a computer or whether it's a tablet, but it's to inculcate in the child's early development, the purpose of which schools are created or schools have been made. You know, the scripture injunction says that children are a heritage of the Lord. And it also says that train up a child the way he should go. So parents have not been, the responsibility for training a child has not been removed. It has not been taken away. It has not been nationalized. Parents have that responsibility. And so if we take up that responsibility, we recognize its importance, then half of the problem that we have and the problems that, we hope that someone outside of the home will solve, all of that will remove. So my appeal is to parents here to tell or to teach your children the purpose for which they go to school. It's to learn, it's to develop themselves, to empower themselves. So let's take a responsibility for what God has given to us to train up our children the way they should go.
I think that the issue of delayed gratification also has to be a teaching in the home as well as at school. I remember, as a teenager, they had a girl used to come and attempting to bring food for me and so on, and I was just 14 or 15. And my father, Reverend Semple, see you laughing, but my father said, "What is this?" He said, "No, you don't want to get involved in this. You know what will happen to you? You will become a father at a very tender age and your career will be over. Stop it. Don't take anything from that young lady." That's the counsel. He never said, "My son, I see you have a girlfriend." No, my father said that you don't want to engage in that. And so children have to understand, and it has to be a teaching in the home that, listen, when you're an adult, you become an adult, then you start doing adult things. So you have to learn to delay gratification. People want to get lots of things, but they don't want to study. They don't want to work. I think we used to say, Bishop, I think we said the only place that we work in before is in the dictionary. Success before work is in the dictionary. S comes before. That's the only place. So you have to work if you want to be successful. So the issue of delayed gratification, all the fancy things that you're looking for as a child. So sometimes you might get involved in sexual relationships with adults and so on. You have to be saying to these girls in particular, calm down, settle down, take in your education, and all the things that you desire. As you become educated, doors will open for you. And thank God, there's some teachers who also speak like that. I hear teachers every day telling children, learn. You come to school, learn. A time will come when you'll be able to have a husband, have a wife or whatever, but we have to practice delayed gratification. Everybody wants everything now. And that's why the Apostle Paul said people become lovers of themselves, because right about now it's selfishness and it's about me and now, but there is always a future.
Dr. Keisha, you can tell the young ladies who we hope will stop by or whose parents might call them and say, look at this program, because we want to get into their head. You grew up in the same secondary school system, like many are going, but you were focused. You are now a medical doctor, and you've been practicing for a while now. You didn't come from a very rich home. Some are saying, she could do it because she come from rich people family and so on. Could you talk to young ladies?
Thank you very much, Bishop. I want to encourage each and every young woman out there. Just know, and I'll say it here because I know Bishop will give me permission. I am Buxtonian. What I would have seen around me is nothing to be proud of. All of the young women that I look up to, they all got pregnant. So I was lost. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to believe. Because had it not been for God, I would have been heading up the very same road. I know what it is to not have money. I came from a low middle class. While food was not a challenge, I didn't have clothes. I didn't have friends because I didn't look like everybody else. I didn't act like everybody else. But I had a desire to be different. And so I want to say to you, you might have nothing. You might think you have nothing. A desire to come out of a certain situation, whether it's because you're hungry, whether it's because all what you see around you is poverty, is possible. I want to say it's possible. I know it's hard. And that's why I share my story, because I know it's hard. But we have to make up our minds that I don't want this for me. You know, and I pray to God that you will find that person like my mentor found me and say, listen, you don't have to be like them. There is hope. And I want to say many of the men that sit in this forum today were such a blessing to me, because I was in the church and I was able to hear my bishop say, we will support you. So if you have a church next to you, you're not already in one, I pray to God that your leaders around you would be able to see everything that God would have declared on your life for excellence. They may not know the end, but they may see something. And I pray that they would be able to identify. Teachers, you have a critical role. Like that teacher that said to me, come and teach the class with me. So you can do it. Please be encouraged. You don't have to be another statistic. You don't have to be another pregnant child. I'm not pregnant, and you don't have to as well. For those who are already pregnant, there is still hope. Continue to go to school.
You just heard Choices. By God's grace, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.
We thank you for joining us on Choices today. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly, LNP Durban Street, Workmanville, Georgetown, Guyana, for any of our special services. I'm Celicia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.